If you aren't able to make it to the mat or make it to class as much as you would like, using a jiu-jitsu training dummy might be a great option for you, depending on how good the dummy is, depending how big your budget is. So in today's video, we're going to break down one of these newest products on the market called the Grappling Smarty 2.0. I was recently sent to it by my friends over there, and they asked me to do an honest and full product review. So we're going to get into the versatility, its flexibility, what my overall thoughts are about it, coming from a jiu-jitsu black belt. So stick around, we're gonna break it down in this video. If you haven't yet already, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. Also give this video a like. It helps me get seen in the YouTube algorithm and helps me stay in good favor and helps me get seen to more people that might need jiu-jitsu help, just like you guys. In this video, we're going to be breaking down and doing a full product review of the Grappling Smarty 2.0. Just to give you guys a little bit of background about me, if you're new here, my name is Chasen Hill. I've been training jiu-jitsu now for 13 plus years, and this is by far one of the most common questions I get from my in-person students and even students online or YouTube. People will ask me, are training dummies worth it? Now, in my 13 years of training and practicing jiu-jitsu, I have definitely seen my fair share of training dummies. Generally, I was not a big fan of them because usually they were very big, they were overweight, they were stiff, they were really hard to be able to get any kind of value out of because they were hard to move around. But in today's video, we have a unique one that's a little bit different called the Grappling Smarty 2.0. And so I wanted to break this down for you guys to see maybe if it's worth adding to your jiu-jitsu arsenal. Some of the criteria that we're going to look at to give my overall decision and opinion of this training dummy is going to be categories like the versatility, the amount of techniques, the types of drills that you can do on it, what the overall cost is. We're going to break down each section so that way you guys can have the most informed knowledge about this product. So first off, let's start with the versatilities, as I wanted to see how easy it was to move. How many different positions could I put it in? What was it made of? Was it hard to pick up? Was it hard to position? And so some of the coolest things about the Smarty 2.0 is its versatility, actually. The arms and legs bend in all kinds of different fashion. It's very much labeled like a human being as best as it can be. The shoulders, the way it's constructed, moves like an actual arm. There are even legs that bend and knees and elbows inside of it that really do feel like it's simulating a joint. When you can have a product like that, it's a lot easier to drill certain techniques versus some of the other training dummies that are out there on the market. They're kind of like a mummy where the arms are just super stiff and you can't really get any value outside of just sitting on top of it. So I really liked how the Grappling Smarty product was very versatile. I could fit it into all kinds of different positions and move it around. Another thing that I liked about its versatility is that you can use it both gi and no gi. If you can put a gi on it, that is great. But if you don't want to put a gi on it, that's okay too. Once again, some of the other training dummies I have used, you can't put a gi on it. This one, the way it's built, you can both put the gi and the pants on it. What I had to find out personally is the gi that you guys see me putting on right now was an I think 5 or 6. You need a little bit bigger of a gi. So if you're a smaller person, don't expect your gi to fit it because mine did not. I wear about an A2 or an A3 depending on some gi sizes. So I had to dig a bigger gi out from a storage shed that I had to be able to put on the Grappling Smarty. One of the other cool highlighted features I want to give you guys about the Grappling Smarty is that its chin and the way it's built. I've not seen this on many other training dummies, how it actually has a V-shaped chin. So that way you can shoot chokes around it. So I have seen other dummies on the market that do have joints and elbows and knees, but I've never seen one that quite has a chin or a head built like this that really does make it feel like that you can do a rear naked choke or that you could do a collar choke on an actual human being, and it feels like it's a legitimate choke. How would I rate the versatility of the Grappling Smarty? I would definitely give it a 5 out of 5, 5 stars out of 5 stars in the versatility category because there are so many different positions it can use, the way that the joints can move and the way that everything can bend. Honestly, you kind of actually have to get creative with it. I had to really think about the different techniques that I could drill on it, the different ways I could position it. But by far out of the training dummies, it's one of the best I've seen on the market. So if I'm rating it, comparing to the other training dummies, it's definitely a 5 out of 5 out of versatility. The next category I want to look at is the amount of positions and the crucial positions. So generally, I had to break this down from the core main positions, things like the full mount, the bottom of guard, the top of side control, back mount. The main crucial positions can all be accomplished. What's even kind of cool about it is that you can even be in the bottom of a lot of these positions. So you can be in the bottom of the mount and bottom of side control and definitely get some kind of value out of it. Definitely, I think more value comes from being on top, because in the bottom, there's no resistance being given from the bottom. So you might be trying to do an elbow escape from the mount or a shrimp escape from side control, and then it kind of just falls over and topples, or it's pretty easy to knock over. So it doesn't give that real life resistance. Some training partners in real life kind of do the same thing, but it definitely is better than most of the other ones. If you guys go back to that mummy idea, if you laid it on top of you, it really doesn't provide any value. So at least this one does feel like it's an actual person sitting on top of you. So it's not too crazy. But definitely most of the value comes from being on top. A negative on the positions is it's a little bit harder to do any kind of a standing idea with it, because it does not stand up on its own. You can purchase a harness to have it be floating kind of above to be able to do certain techniques, but there are some training dummies out there that almost are like a tripod that are sometimes maybe a little bit easier to use for standing. I don't think the harness is a bad thing. I actually think it's a great idea. But anytime that you have to buy another accessory with something, that just adds another layer of friction. And then you have to be able to have an area to rig it up to be able to hang. So if it's in your house and you don't have a strong area to hang it, then it might not do super well. On the positions, I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5 stars, just because it can't do every standing thing, but it can do almost every ground position, and it can do almost every top position, and you can manipulate it to do quite a bit of positions. So if you guys are liking this kind of information, make sure you leave me a comment down below about training dummies. What are the ones you have used? Is there anything cool that you see about this one? Let me know in the comments below. So with that, the next part is going to be the techniques that you can practice. Obviously, you don't have a real human being in front of you, so some of the techniques are going to be non-resistant. It would be very similar to doing a drill style. But the Grappling Smarty, at least the one that I was using the pre-filled one. There are some that are not filled that's a little bit lighter, but the pre-filled one that I was using or demonstrating inside of this weighs roughly about 50-ish pounds. You can definitely feel that the limbs have a little bit of weight to them, and the body has a little bit of weight to it. So it's not just pushing around a very light object. It's about the size of a small child, if you want to think about that weight-wise, but it's just a little bit bigger in a surface area, if you want to call it that. So it doesn't just feel like you're able to knock it over super easy. When it comes to the techniques, you do feel like you can put your weight on it. You can do things like guard passing. You can do things like mount control, hold it down, actually put your weight on it so it doesn't sink and just fall over and roll. So a lot of those things I think it's great for. I think if you are wanting to drill guard passing, if you're wanting to drill top pressure and putting your weight on something and practicing taking your knees off of and spinning around it, I think those are great things to be able to do with this. You can also drill submissions. There are all kinds of submissions you can drill. Like I said, you kind of have to get creative with it, but I was able to go through and put a gi on it, and I was able to drill a lot of different submissions that way. I was even able to do a lot of no gi submissions from the closed guard, from the open guard, from all kinds of, from the mount. So I was able to do a multitude of submissions and a multitude of techniques. The one negative that you're going to have, obviously, with the grappling dummy is since there's no resistance training follow-up moves. So for example, if I was to do an arm lock and it was to rip its arm out and go into a triangle, which is a super common jiu-jitsu training idea, you could not do that. But I didn't really, obviously I don't have that expectation, but there are just certain techniques that you will never be able to practice on it because you actually need a resisting opponent to practice. So if you're a person though that enjoys just being able to go through the motions and start to retain some basic information, then this is a great tool for you. Just on the amount of techniques and the types of techniques you can do and the realistic feel of it, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 out of training dummies, because there's a lot of ones that you can do that I think is very valuable, especially if you're newer to jiu-jitsu and you're just getting started and you're wanting to go through all of the motions step by step. The next category is going to be the durability. I've had some training dummies that I've used in the past that are not very durable. Ones that are stuffed, it seems like the zippers come off and it's hard to put stuff in it to make it heavier or to take stuff out to make it lighter, or the material maybe rips. and it just doesn't feel great to use. I've even had some that are like sandpaper, feels like when you're on top of it. So all of these things I think are very important, and a lot of that's been taken into consideration with this. They've even have the limb size of it and the durability of it, where you can actually use it and be able to do things like a body triangle or head and arm choke. So it doesn't feel like it's sandpaper going across you. I feel like it's very flexible and the quality looks very good. I haven't had it for years and I haven't used it on a daily basis for years. So maybe it might wear out over time, who knows? But it's definitely not uncomfortable to use, and it looks like it's pretty easy to stuff it or to take material out, I guess, if you wanted to make it lighter or make it heavier. But I think the pre-filled one, I like the way that they have it stuffed. I like the way that it was sent. So I highly recommend doing that, because if you do the unfilled one, it's lighter, and to stuff it yourself is quite a beast. I've done that on previous grappling dummies before, but definitely of how it feels and the durability of it, I would definitely rate it a 5 out of 5 in that category as well. Now, the big one that I'm sure a lot of you guys are interested in is what is the cost of the Grappling Smarty? So I believe they have two main versions. They have a filled and non-filled version. The filled version is going to run you anything between about $600 to $700. Then you do have to pay for shipping. I do believe they're based out of Canada, so you might want to check your local shipping area to see how much you're going to add on top of that. I think the unfilled one is going to run you closer to $200 to $300. It's double in price for the pre-filled as it would be for the unfilled, which to me makes sense. Now, I have seen grappling dummies, and you go from anything for $100 to even some on $1,000 when I looked on Amazon earlier today. So this one is a little bit, especially if you get the pre-filled one, it is on the upper end range. With that, it depends on what you guys are interested in using it for. If you feel like you're going to use it and you feel like you don't get to the mat as much, then it definitely could be a great accessory for you. My personal recommendation is spend a little bit extra cash and get the pre-filled one if you can. That's just my personal recommendation. I know that's going to cost you a little bit more money, but save up and get the pre-filled one because you want it done right. You don't want to get the unfilled one and it's too light. I feel like you may not deliver in the way that the product can really do. I would advise ordering the filled one if you can. If you're a person that only trains maybe 1 or 2 days a week and you're wanting to just drill basic techniques and to get more muscle memory down and all of these ideas, then definitely it's for you. If you're like a brown belt or a black belt, and you're a person that trains 7 days a week, or even a blue belt that trains 7 days a week, then you may never have an opportunity to use your Grappling Smarty because you're actually using real life humans. So it depends. You have to look at it from the cost to value to you. I know people who are white belts or blue belts that will buy, $200 or $300 in instructionals, and they're only training 1 or 2 days a week, and they never get to apply any of that information. So you could spend this much on a training dummy and actually be physically moving, which would be great. But if you're a person that trains 6 days a week and you get a lot of drilling time with your partners, and it might be better that you spend that same $200 or $300 on an instructional for your educational purpose. Because of the cost of it, I'm going to rank it a 3.5 out of 5 stars, just because I just know in the jiu-jitsu industry, sometimes that is a big deterrent for a lot of people. But if you're a lower white belt or a blue belt, then I would definitely give it a shot and add it to your arsenal. That way you can be able to stay drilling and stay on the mat a lot more. So what is my personal recommendation for the Grappling Smarty? Well, you can see that majority of the aspects, I ranked it very high. I think there was only one category I gave 4.5 stars, and then on the cost, I gave 3.5 stars. Coming from a black belt's perspective that's trained with a lot of different training dummies, those categories are the things that I look for if I was to decide to buy it. Me personally, as a black belt, I think it's one of the better grappling dummies I have seen out there. I think it's very flexible. I think it's very cool. Normally in the past, I would not recommend students buy training dummies because I just didn't think the cost to reward or the cost to value aspect was really there. Most of them looked like a mummy, or if they had joints, they could be knocked over really easy, or they weren't durable. So I didn't want students spending $400 or $500 on these training dummies, and it just didn't really do anything for them besides give maybe kind of a cardio workout, but not making their jiu-jitsu better with techniques. This is probably one of the only ones that I'd really recommend to an actual student. That's an honest opinion. If I had a brand new student who was only training 2 or 3 days a week, and they said, Chase, my budget's not a problem. I want to do everything I can to get better at jiu-jitsu. What do I recommend? And they can't go to class more, right? That's not an option. They're not able to go to class more. I would 100% recommend the Training Smarty for them to be able to get. So if you guys are interested in purchasing the Grappling Smarty, you guys can visit the link that's down below in the description where you guys can check it out. Like I said, make sure you check out the shipping rates because especially if you do the filled version, it might cost you a little bit, but 100% I would recommend it. If you're going to buy a training dummy, don't buy one. Don't spend $200 or $300 on one that doesn't really do anything for you. Spend a little bit more money on this. It's also made by a person who does jiu-jitsu, so I think that's really cool to be able to support jiu-jitsu community in that way. So don't buy just the basic mummy one or the UFC one that doesn't really care really about jiu-jitsu necessarily. Go spend your money on a person who is actually in jiu-jitsu trying to actually help out the culture. So that's it for this video. Thank you guys for sticking around. Make sure you guys let me know what your thoughts are about the product. Let me know if you have any questions. I might be doing another review if you have a very specific area. I might even shoot some techniques with it if I know I have enough students that like that kind of stuff. Make sure you check them out also on Instagram. I'll put their Instagram down below where you can see all the kinds of drills that you can do with it outside the ones that I have shown. But definitely go check it out. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.